to introduce you to our guest speaker, Acharya Das. If you would love to speak, we would love to hear you.
Close enough? Namaste, everyone. Namaste. Before speaking, I'll offer some auspicious invocations to my spiritual teachers, our lineage, and to the Supreme Soul. Om Agnatimarandasya Gnanajana Salakaya Chaksuru Militanyena Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha Bhaja Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Sri Vasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda. Hey Krishna Kauruna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopisha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Haribol. What do you think of the topic? Kind of serious or what? Huh? You do realize it's a life and death topic. Literally. Or you don't know what the topic is. You just showed up anyway. Everybody dies, but not everybody lives. How to stop existing and start truly living. Well, first thing I want to say is this is not a motivational talk. Although we should end up being very motivated to perhaps consider a significant change of direction in life. But this is not for the purpose of, a feel-good exercise, all right? And in advance, I would like to ask your permission to be honest, brutally honest, because I think there is enormous value in being very honest about such things. And of course, I hope that in the course of my speaking, I don't overly upset anyone. And if I do, I ask your patience. So I'm going to approach the subject. I mean, there's actually a lot of ways to approach it, but I'm going to approach it from a purely transcendental perspective, a fully spiritual perspective. And when you hear the information that I will share, you can consider whether you want to completely try to incorporate it into your life, or whether some iteration of the knowledge that we will share could be applied. So it's not like all or nothing, that people may take things according to where you're at right now, and see if this cannot help improve life. So the first part of the title, Everyone Dies. Are you aware of that reality? And I don't mean casually. We're talking about contemplating our mortality in much the same way as when you're flying on a plane and it hits severe turbulence. How does everybody react? It's like your heart is in your mouth and everybody's white-knuckled gripping the seat. Have you ever been in a really bad one, like when people flew out of their seats? I've been in a couple of those where they slam into the ceiling and people are screaming and crying, and it's not like anything's happening. Nothing more than the really bad potholes, really, hitting them at a reasonably good speed. So there's nothing really happening too much. You know, it's rough and bumpy. But what it does is instantly make us completely aware of our mortality, that this could be it. So that's what I'm talking about when I ask the question, you know, about our being aware of this reality. The fact is that death is the only possible outcome for this journey. There is no other outcome. This is the only one. And I think it is very tragic that people are not more aware of it. I've lived most of my life in the third world, in very humble circumstance, where there's not a great deal of government services, where the things are not hidden from people. And people take care of their elders in their own home. The elders die in the home. Children are born in the home. And the family members get to witness and be part of all of this. And it really brings about a difference in perspective, something that is sorely lacking in the Western world, where we've attempted to create a fantasy of everything is so wonderful and perfect. What's going on is just an absolute outrage. Social media is so incredibly destructive, and that it just entices people to live in fantasy land and become disconnected from reality. They did a recent survey in grade school, elementary school in the United Kingdom. And so we're talking young kids. 30% of young kids, when asked what did they want to be when they grew up, said they wanted to be influencers. That is so sick. That is seriously shocking and should be depressing. That something as frivolous as a so-called influencer is what people aspire to be. Nothing noble in that, unless you're contributing something incredibly wonderful. Sorry. This is a little bit of a warm-up. You can see where we're heading, right? Anybody that wants to leave, it's okay. I won't complain. So, all roads don't lead to Rome, they lead to the cemetery. And if we actually embrace that reality, we would live differently. The way that we would deal with others, the way we would engage in relationships, the way that we would see ourselves as part of a social organization which we would want to contribute to something of value, the way in which we would deal with this planet would all change if we actually had more clarity that this was something that we embraced. Embracing it doesn't mean it has to be a bummer, and you'll see why in a little while. But in people's normal lives, they encounter death or the shadow of death quite often. We can see it when a child or even an adult has a pet and they get attached to the pet and the pet dies. Somebody pancaked it on the road. I can remember my mother, when I was a kid, she had this little budgie that she really, she would sing to, and, it had clipped wings so it couldn't fly away, and she'd have it on her finger and talk to it. And we had a cat. And it's an example of La La Land. Because she's around there when the budgie's walking around and the cat's there and it'll come up and hop on the cat or whatever. This is unnatural. That cat has an instinct. And so one day the cat went for the budgie when my mom wasn't looking. And I remember she was just like absolutely broken-hearted, sobbing. It was just like, for her, it was just like so tragic. And we see it. I mean, if kids, this is one of the problems when kids have pets and they get attached to them, then the natural course of things, that pet is going to die. And it pulls everybody's heart apart, when you're attached to it. And people have a really hard time recovering. But that's one way in which people are reminded. When we encounter the death of a loved one, a family member, a friend, we suddenly get the call that such and such has died. And it's like our reaction is like it was unexpected. That shows you how big a problem we have Why do you expect somebody not to die? Why are you shocked when someone dies? You know, do you really live in that fantasy that everybody's not going to die? But this is another way that we are reminded. And all you got to do is look at the news now. Oh my God. With all this war and destruction, the horror of seeing innocent people slaughtered, it's devastating. And so we prefer not to look at it, not to get involved. Let's just change the channel or put some music on. Something that's actually really beneficial as part of your being human is to support old people. You go to an old age home and sit with people. Spend a couple of hours, 2-3 hours. Just go there as a volunteer and sit with them. Hold their hand, talk to them. And of course, the question is, my God, is this it? Is this where everything goes? Okay, I'm not going to talk anymore. You know, this is the reality of our life, of human existence. And we shouldn't try to hide from it. We should come to understand it. And we should allow it to affect us so that we become better. We become better people. Sorry, I got a few notes here and my phone's spazzing out. So, you know, death is our constant companion, like it or not. It is our constant companion. The second part of the title is, but everyone dies, and the second part, but not everyone truly lives. And this is the part that is really profound. This is the part that can be really, you know, this can be life-altering for you. It invites reflection on the idea of our purpose and direction in life. I mean, do we even think about this? What is the purpose of my existence? Is it to become a subservient and actually a slave to social media and advertisers? I mean, what's gone on in the world in the last 100 years is mind-boggling. There has been this incredible experiment that it's unmatched in the history of humankind, where they have taken a growing understanding of psychology and used it to utterly manipulate entire populations. primarily to buy and to consume. And then everybody's running around with their hair on fire. What about the environment? What about the environment? Can't we do something, not burn all the oil? How about you don't buy so much crap? You can live with a lot less. The problem is not just going to be solved by trying to switch to an alternate form of energy. And most of the green energy, when you really get into it, is not very green at all. The planet and people here are going to be paying a significant price. The problem is, we have become idiots. We're fed all this messaging about what's cool, what's desirable, what you should be doing, what you should be consuming, why you need this or why you need that. And we just accept it. And it's like, it's not easy to push back. It's not easy because the tools that have been developed, where they know how to press your buttons and make you respond in certain ways. They know how to do it, and they've been doing it for the past century. Starting with Eddie Bernays. Back in the early 1900s, he was the grandson or cousin. Nephew, sorry, thank you for the correction. Nephew of Sigmund Freud. And he was the one who packaged Sigmund Freud and made him famous. And he utilized all of the techniques that Freud was developing to control mass populations and turned it into advertising. The study of how to control masses of people. So the question, what is your purpose? What is the great purpose of your life? We will often regurgitate things that we have fed. It doesn't really come necessarily from us, but it is a very significant point. What demands your attention? Honestly, what is it that demands your attention? What gets you emotional? That's what really has your attention. I'll give you a dumb example. You go to a meeting with someone, and everybody is very polite and they have the right etiquette, and so they might silence the phone, maybe not, and they'll put it on the table so they can engage in a conversation. Just reach across the table, put your hand on that phone and pull it towards you, and watch what happens to that person. It's like you've attacked them. It's almost like you're raping them. It's just like, I'm serious. People just wig out. It's like a violation of privacy. You're invading my space just by moving that device. Why do we react with such intensity? Try losing your phone and see what happens. Worse, have somebody snatch it and see what happens to you, how you react, and everything that you go through. One of the problems is, as do I want to go here? It's really important to understand that one of the reasons we are so listless and we struggle with purpose and issues of identity and everything is because we've given ourselves over to others who significantly influence and even control aspects of our life. We are so dumb that when we get my phone, let me do a search on that. Like I'm in control. We've got the phone. What we don't see is this massive array of computing power on the other side that's watching everything I do. Even when you type in a search and you get halfway through the words and then you erase part of it and put another word, that all goes into your profile. They know everything about you. You don't have any secrets. You think that just because you've got it on private mode, that you can have some secrets? Are you that dumb? There's all kinds of people that are snagging that information and putting it against your profile. It's like, okay, time to move on. Because of all these influences, one of the most corrosive thing that's happened is we've become incredibly self-centered, where I see everything in relation to me. That means I see myself at the center of the world. And it's all about me. The language I adopt, my partner, my husband, my wife, my children, my parents, my siblings, my friends, I see everything in relation to me. But the big challenge there is actually, this might be a bit of a shock, you're not actually the center of the universe. You're pretty insignificant in the big picture. Time to get a grip. Are we okay? So, because of these incredibly powerful influences, everybody is just what? Looking for the next rush. All this scrolling. They're just looking for the next rush. That your value, your purpose will be realized in consuming a product, an experience, the next new thing. You guys can relate to this, right, or not? Or you're all amazing transcendentalists, untouched by any of this? In which case I would bow before you and apologize. I suspect it's not the case, otherwise you wouldn't be here tonight. Purpose is not defined by hunting for the next rush, the next thrill, the next excitement. And the message driving it, is really epitomized by a very successful manufacturer and marketer of products in the slogan, "Just do it." People think that's innocent. What they're suggesting is that you should not resist anything. If you have an impulse, if you have a desire, you just do it. And what society has been stripped of is the notion that there are consequences to every single choice that you make, every speech you make, every action that you take will have a consequence. Some of them are short term, but there will always be longer term. I was talking to some young people last weekend. I asked them, you know what a rat trap is? You get a rat trap with a big juicy piece of cheese on it or whatever. And the rat's kind of like highly suspicious and sneaking up on it. But he's just overwhelmed. In the Bhagavad Gita, there is a verse that says, by contemplating the objects of the senses, one develops attachment. From attachment comes lust, meaning intense desire, which then leads to anger and a loss of intelligence. Talks about this, just the chain of way things happen. And so here's the rat. He's contemplating the objects of the senses. He's smelling that cheese. Oh, he can see it. He's just getting closer and closer. And finally, he's brave enough, and he just sinks his teeth into the cheese. And there's a split second of, a burst of flavor and ecstasy before, bam, down comes the trap. And we've become, as humans, everybody's been trained to look at things just right in front of you. Don't worry about where it goes after that and what are going to be the implications. Focus on it. You want it. You want it. You need it. Go for it. That's the messaging. And there might be an initial thrill with a hell of a bad price to pay down the road. And we're taught not to think about that, not to consider that. This strips us of dignity. So just looking for the next rush is not living. It's intoxicating. It just sucks you in and lulls you in to this lifestyle that ends nowhere. Neither is scrolling for the next TikTok video or YouTube short living. That's not living. How much time do we spend on ridiculous pursuits that provide momentary titillation, momentary excitement? And then just as we're coming down from the dopamine rush, we're scrolling or we get fed something else. Oh, what's that? And, next one. And before you know it, 45 minutes has gone by in completely unproductive enterprise, looking at stupid things on the internet. Yeah, they may be humorous and everything, but what's it doing for you? How is that contributing to your life? Is it having any adverse effect on my life? I don't even ask that question just because I laugh. Just because it makes me laugh. Or I get a little shocked or, oh, amazed. I don't even consider what that's doing to me long term. So it's like people have actually become hypnotized by the promise. This is the thing you've been looking for. This is it. This is the thing you've been looking for. You see, the foundational principle of advertising is the recognition that every single person is feeling empty in their heart. And then all you have to do is associate a product or a service with the promise that this is it. This is what you've been looking for. This is it. It's as simple as that. Of course, it's highly complex the way the manipulation is carried out, but that's fundamentally the idea. And maybe at this moment, you're listening to me and going, oh my God, I never thought of it like that. Or, yeah, I know it's true, but it's just like, we're disconnected from reality. And this talk is about reality. But in relation to these two things, what if I told you that you don't die? That you can't die? It's impossible for you to die. It's kind of like, what? The guy just said we all die. And what if I told you that you actually do have purpose? That it is something which is completely fulfilling and satisfying, and it is a natural part of your deeper identity, but you are disconnected from it. And so you are not feeling purpose, you are not feeling direction. You're just going from one experience to the other, trying to find happiness, trying to find love, trying to find fulfillment. And of course, if those two things I stated now were true, it would mean that the algorithm or the paradigm that's controlling us in our life now is false. Now I will explain what I mean by that. The paradigm that controls most people's life is the idea, the false idea, that the body that you have and which you are deeply identifying with is not you. The mind that you are completely lost in is also not you. That this gross physical body and the subtle body, it's called the sthula, the linga sarira, that these are coverings, your coverings, the coverings of the eternal spiritual being residing within the body. But people utterly embrace the false idea that the body is the self. Therefore, I call myself and I identify with all the labels on my body. I am male, I am female, I am tall, short, young, old, thin, fat. I am this, I am that. All the different descriptors used to identify a physical body. And I say that is me. This is a tragedy. This is the foundation for all suffering. The second idea that is tragically adopted is the idea that life, my life, is the period between the birth of this body and the death of the body. That period I call my life. I say this is life, and it's not. Is this getting too far out, or we're okay? So I'll share with you the ancient perspective of the great saints and yogis, the rishis. And I'm not just talking about in the Vedic tradition, but you will find that many of the founding personalities of different spiritual paths understood these facts. So the ancient truth is that we are all eternal spiritual beings. This body that we have on is a temporary and passing identity. We will reside in it for some time, and when we leave it, the body manifests death, but the living being doesn't. That's what I mean by you cannot die. It's impossible for you to die. You are eternal. You are a glorious, eternal, spiritual being or entity. But you've lost the plot and become so overwhelmed by this body that you have taken birth in. It is because of your presence that the body manifests life. Because life is a quality of the spiritual being. Consciousness is a quality of the spiritual being. And when the spiritual being is embodied, it passes consciousness, it passes life to the cage. And then we become utterly lost about our true being and any sense of higher purpose. And we just become overwhelmed by desires, by our mind and all of its thoughts, all of the emotions that we experience. We spend our entire life reacting to the stimulation of the body and mind. And it is for this reason that we feel discomfort that there is something missing. Even when I get all the stuff I want, it doesn't utterly fulfill me. It doesn't complete me. That I am left feeling something is missing, wanting something else. If we consider the physical exterior, the body, and the subtle body comprised of the mind, the intelligence, and the ahankara, the false ego, false conceptions of self. If we simply live in that realm, focused on that, when that body is no longer habitable, when you are forced to leave, you will be filled with fearfulness and terror, like sitting on a plane as it falls out of the sky. Because you have identified so intensely with the body, you will be so fearful of the idea of death. And there will be not even the tiniest appreciation that I cannot die. I will not die. I am eternal. The living being, as I said, is the source of life and of energy for the body. In the Bhagavad Gita, we have one verse, O son of Bharata, as the sun alone illuminates all of this universe, so does the living entity, one within the body, illuminate the entire body by consciousness. This is the eternal perspective. This is reality. And if this is reality, then it's kind of like, oh my God, what am I doing? I'm spending all of my time and effort simply trying to satisfy the urges of the body and the mind. And that's why I feel empty. Even when I have all kinds of amazing experiences, even if I make millions, billions of dollars, even if I have fame, people chanting my name, you'll see that all big music and movie personalities, at some point in their career, they'll go through a crisis, like a complete breakdown. They'll lock themselves. I remember Madonna one time on a tour in Paris, she locks herself in the room, pulls the curtains, won't let anybody come in, no food for, 5 days, just crying. And it's like, why? We fantasize that if we had all this stuff, our life would be wonderful. And it's absolutely not the case. It's not true. This does not bring a sense of purpose, of fulfillment. I had a few verses I was going to share, but I'll move past them. Although it's interesting in relation to the mind, to consciousness, and how it's the spiritual being, the spirit soul, that is lending consciousness and life to the body and mind. From the Yoga Sutra of Patanjali, the pure and transcendental consciousness of the Atma, or self, is unchangeable. When the mind receives the reflection of that consciousness, it is able to perceive and appears like the seer. the mind being able to perceive due to its reflecting both the Atma, or the self, and the objects of perception, appears to comprehend everything. Kind of technical, a deep subject, but just throwing it out there. If we consider this new perspective, that I am an eternal spiritual being having a temporary material experience, then almost everything that I am absorbed in everyday life means I am absorbed in that which is temporary and not absorbed in that which is eternal. How does that sound? Is that like amazing? Education, career, significant relationships, family. They're temporary and passing realities, not eternal. And then when my body reaches old age, and I've done all these things, you know what old people spend a lot of time doing? Remembering the past. It's like, even in my life now, if I had a really nice experience, then I keep wanting to go there mentally and remember it. And, oh, that was so nice. Oh, yeah, ooh. And I'm trying to relive it, but I can't. I can remember, but I can't actually relive the experience. And I spend all this time either contemplating the future, material experiences, or trying to remember the past ones, trying to forget all of the crappy stuff. And it's just like a total absorption in that which is temporary and passing. And the amazing thing is, we're going to go here? Oh my God. Sorry, this might upset people. We get so caught up in what we call life, which is all temporary and not completely fulfilling experience. And then you die. And when you die, that's gone. You're never going to be in touch with that again. You're just going to move on to a new body and start the whole process over again. Looking for someone to love, developing familial relationships, you know, my children, my husband, my wife, my. And I'm getting all freaked out, and I'm pulling my hair out, and I'm crying, and I'm laughing, and then I'm trying to acquire assets. I'm trying to build a permanent home in a world that is impermanent. How dumb is that? But we all do it. This is a massive problem. And we get all caught up, and we're all, you know, all over the place emotionally. And then, bam, death comes, and we move on. And everything is left, never to be revisited. And it breaks the heart of the great saints and transcendentalists who look upon the living beings in this world, who have this extraordinary opportunity in this body that they have, the human form of life, that has a unique type of intelligence, the opportunity to discover who you actually are, your actual and true identity. To discover why do I search for happiness? What's wrong with being on a bummer? Why do we search for happiness? It's because it is part of the eternal nature of the Atma, of the self, the spirit soul. It's part of your the reality of your eternal being, to exist in a state of happiness. So we are constantly craving it. But when I just do things to stimulate my mind and my body, it doesn't touch me in the core of my being. And so I am left feeling unfulfilled. Really big one, love. Why do people search for love? Also, it is because it is part of my eternal spiritual nature to be lost in the experience of transcendental love. And I feel discomfort in this world because I am looking for that perfect love, that perfect relationship, and I can't find it. Doesn't matter how nice the people are that I become involved with. I know that there's something more ideal, more wonderful, but I don't know what it is. That urge arises from the soul itself. If you begin to embrace this paradigm of transcendental truth, to try and discover your spiritual identity, who are you as an eternal spiritual being, and to reconnect with that identity and to complete. We have a source, we have a transcendental, a spiritual source that we are feeling disconnected from. That reconnection with the Supreme Soul is what the word yoga means. It is the union between the individual soul and the Supreme Soul. And the nature of that union, the highest experience of that union, is to experience a form of ecstatic, transcendental love. And we are deprived of these because we are earthbound. Our eyes are down. We are looking at the ground. We are looking at our phone. Like that's going to do you some good. Really? Really? Glancing around at other, temporary material bodies, seeking a perfect relationship with those who are imperfect. How's that going to work out? Your purpose is to rediscover your eternal spiritual identity and to live, to engage in a process that will allow you to experience this extraordinary spiritual potential, your actual nature. You don't have to be great. You don't have to be, an amazing transcendentalist. You just have to be real. You don't need any special qualification. We're talking about uncovering your eternal nature. And again, really reconnecting with that. This is what it means to truly have purpose. Of course, this is all like the very big picture. But if we want to distill that down to our current life and existence, by adopting this understanding that I am an eternal spiritual being, that my self-interest lies in awakening this, or reconnecting with my true spiritual being, and awakening my natural propensity for perfect and limitless love. But if I understand that, and I'm engaged in cultivating that understanding, and engaged in a process that will transform me, a process by which the fog will be lifted. Literally, we are walking around in the fog, not seeing with clarity, just being moved by whatever's going on in our mind, the emotions, the feelings that we have in the body. When the fog sets in, you can't see. You try to look 10 feet out the window, 20 meters, 30 meters away. You can't see anything, it's just white. When the sun rises, the power of the sun is such it begins to burn off the fog, and the fog begins to dissipate and to thin out. Then when I look, now I can see where the car is parked. And after a few more minutes or 30 minutes, it's like, now I can see the mountains back there, or I can see the ocean, which I couldn't see previously. As the fog lifts, I see everything with clarity. If you embrace these very simple and basic spiritual principles, it will incrementally transform how you see yourself, how you see others, and how you see the world. And your life will become a life of purpose and meaning. I completely accept and embrace that I'm embodied. And while I'm in this embodied state, I have duty, I have responsibility. I need to live in society, but act in a way that's beneficial for me and for all others, and beneficial for the world in which we live. But time is short. And we have to consider, the subtitle and the title of the talk, how to stop existing and to start truly living. This is, we don't have time I'm only scratching the surface here. But let me just say that when a person cultivates spiritual understanding and is engaged in a process or activity, meditation, that makes it so the fog is lifting, we see with increasing clarity, we begin to experience more of our spiritual nature and our connection with something higher, infinitely more wonderful, that which is truly beautiful, the transcendent truth, the Supreme Soul, God. As this grows, my life really transforms. And the way I deal with others completely changes, becomes wonderful. And I gain a capacity to affect and influence others just by my life, by my choices, by my speech, by my actions. The single most powerful way for this to happen is the engagement in this chanting that we've been doing. You guys chant really nice. It's really, really nice. And you feel that it's nice, right? Your heart becomes joyful and rested. And when you're chanting and dancing and stuff, you're not thinking about all your problems, all the stuff that you have to deal with later or tomorrow or the next day or next Monday, right? You become lost in actually what is a mini experience of the beginning of what's called samadhi, to be lost in an ocean of spiritual sound, where you're not even thinking about stuff, you're just chanting. Isn't it nice? It's uplifting, right? It's healing, it gives energy, it brings focus. The more sincerely you engage in this practice, the quicker the transformation will be. But it is also helpful to cultivate understanding, what we broadly refer to as yoga wisdom. These wonderful people here who, are all volunteers doing so much work, putting on kirtans and events and teaching and doing all this stuff. And what drives them? What drives them is their own internal experience. They're tasting the eternal. They're tasting that which is spiritual. And they become highly motivated to sacrifice their time and energy to try and share with others. So I am in awe and deeply respect these people. And they can provide you with a clear pathway for you to attain the highest possible spiritual experience and realization. If you are interested, nothing is forced. If you are interested, then inquire. Is that good enough? I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll have maybe a short kirtan, and then we can do a Q&A. And if we do a Q&A, if people need to leave or whatever, then it's perfectly fine. Don't feel shy or embarrassed. Do what you need to do.
I don't play the guitar.
Yeah, it's obvious. What's that? Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds better. I don't know. I'm just thinking about what I'll chant. I'm going to chant the Maha Mantra. What's the trip here? They're all different. And the second one. Thank you very much. So, just like on a hot day, and you go out to the beach, and you walk out into the balmy waters, and you get about waist deep, and you just turn around and fall back into the water and it feels so refreshing. This is what we should be doing in our heart when it comes to chanting, to immerse ourselves in the ocean of transcendental sound. Because when we open ourselves up to receive this, then its purifying effect becomes profoundly magnified. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare together. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. One more. Hare Krishna, Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna. Okay, anybody got a question? It's really simple process.
Excuse me,
All
Acharyadas.
that's needed is some sincerity.
Just before you ask a question, I'll just come over if you raise your hands because it's very difficult for everybody to hear. So I'll just give you I'll hold the microphone.
It'll be difficult for me to hear. I'm a really old guy. Losing my hearing.
Thank you very much. So lots of opportunities for reflection
Yeah.
and questions. And one question I would like to ask is, so what does it mean to stop existing and start living? I try to think about my options. And whenever I come home from work, I'm with my family, with the children, with my wife, doing chores. And then maybe there's some time to spend the rest of the evening. And then there are options like, getting on my phone and check my messages.
Yeah.
And then maybe I do some scrolling. And then I see what's going on, the sad things that might occur, and then I stick there and I keep reading the news, because there's a lot of coverage there right now and a lot of sad things going on, starving children, a war emerging.
Yeah.
And then I say, okay, I'm trying to start getting depressed here. Maybe I should do something else. And then I watch a TV show, okay, or a movie. And then I say, okay, that's enough screen now. I grab a book. I sit down and read something. I don't know, Atomic Habits or some novel or some paper that is related to my work, you know. And then I put that down, and then I have a conversation, maybe with my wife. So the point I try to get is, I don't really feel like this is really fulfilling, or this is like, and sometimes I just feel bored. You know, I just think about, okay, what can I do with my time? And it's really difficult. Then there are those rare moments where I feel the connection to myself, to the people around me, to the, how you put it, and I really appreciate the term, the supreme soul.
Yeah.
Yeah, but these are so rare moments. I had that a month ago at a retreat where we had these reflection workshops, and I was deeply meditating. And usually I, achieve being mindful and just forget about everything, my problems and this and that. But then, I really achieved to feel that connection, and I just felt pure love. But that was, just a really rare moment in my life. And I was, trying to understand, how can I get out of this cycle where I sit there and think about my options, and it's just boring, or it's just, things where 2 hours later I tell myself, what a waste of time.
So it boils down to the question of purpose, which is the thing that's missing. If you want to sit, go ahead, it's fine. How about I share with you another perspective? You have a wife. She is not actually your wife. She is an eternal spiritual being. And the greatest service and the greatest expression of love that you can share with her is to help her come to realize her eternal spiritual identity, and for her to reconnect also with the Supreme Soul, with God. That's your duty as a husband, to do that. When married couples see each other or themselves as the center of a marriage, there will be much bitterness tasted there. Some moments of fleeting happiness, but much bitterness. If instead of ourselves or each other as being the center of that union, if it is something higher, that transcendent reality, that ultimate spiritual perfection, God, the Supreme Soul, has been the center, and we are focused on serving, then our relationship becomes different. Instead of trying to find happiness and fulfillment in each other, we see each other as fellow pilgrims on a wonderful pilgrimage. And when we see the other stumble, we help them up and offer words of encouragement, and vice versa. As a parent, you don't have any higher. These living beings that have appeared in your sphere of influence are not truly your children in the highest sense. They are also eternal spiritual beings. And your greatest responsibility is to provide them with the understanding, learning how to make really good decisions and choices to become independently strong, but to strive for the spiritual perfection. And that is how you serve your children. And in response, they serve the parents as they grow an understanding of what it means to have spiritual duty and purpose. And that can extend from beyond a family to a whole society, maybe in the beginning to just a few people, that are within our sphere of influence. That is just like a little glimpse. If you want more detail on how that is done, then I will say, talk to my friends here. But I'm just giving you some insight. Your life is out of balance currently, in the sense that it's primarily focused on that which is material and temporary. At least there has to be some component in our life, significant component. Doesn't have to be even half, but a significant component of spiritual undertaking and focus, so that our life actually begins to become balanced. And we will feel less agitated, our heart will feel more at peace, and that will grow if we are graced sufficiently. Our home can be like a spiritual ashram, not in a weird and superficial sense, but in a very deep and profound and wonderful sense. And that is what we are encouraged to do. We don't run away from this world. There is nothing wrong with this world. It is what it is. It is temporary, it is unfulfilling, and all those things. But there are some amazing things here also. We don't run from it, but we find how to incorporate everything in our life as part of a spiritual journey. And that is what purpose brings. Is that okay? Don't be shy. There's no silly questions or stupid questions. They're all good. We got a hand up over here if you haven't seen one.
Hi, you were just talking about spiritual perfection. What is that in your world? Yeah.
What is spiritual perfection?
Yeah, perfection.
What was the last part that you said?
You were talking about spiritual perfection, as in all reach to the spiritual perfection. What's that?
What is that?
Yeah, like define it.
That is called self-realization and God-realization. To realize your true spiritual identity, to realize the highest spiritual truth, and to reconnect with that. That subject is a very deep subject, but the most important component of that connection or relationship is the awakening of a profound and ecstatic, transcendental and ecstatic love, where one feels their only desire is to serve and to become pleasing. That's a little glimpse. Is that enough? Oh, you want?
Now.
You want more? I wouldn't be very satisfied with that answer. Most people, we live in the Western world. The Western world has gone through this really weird phase, of over the last 100 years, the growth of humanist type philosophies, where people actually become islands unto themselves. They actually call social media, but there's nothing social about it. It's anti-social. And it's like there's all these trips going on where people are using language simply to manipulate, to try and imply one thing, but actually to mean something else. And during this phase, people have turned their backs on traditional spirituality and religion, and it's really not smart. You may not agree with how somebody is practicing something, and it may even be somewhat faulty, but the idea of the, I mean, what, oh, are we going to do this? Might end up in a big fight with somebody. You know, morality, for instance, not that I'm promoting worldly morality. No, I'm promoting spiritual morality. But worldly morality makes it so that people at least have some ideal of something that is better. That I should be good, that I should be kind, that I should be, you know, honest, that I should be truthful, that I should actually care for others. And when the institutions that promoted these things were abandoned, there has been a tendency to abandon. They still use the language, but now the language is mean. Like, you know, or what, you don't care about others? And I say that as a way to cause harm and to smash somebody because I don't like their political philosophy or whatever. And it just, you know, people are using all of the good language for really shitty and mean ends that's really tearing society apart. So it's super important that you have some really clear parameters for what's going to guide your life. What are the lines that you will not cross? You know, what is going to guide you towards goodness? But goodness is not enough. In Sanskrit, they talk about three modes of material nature. They call it the three gunas. Tamaguna, the mode of ignorance. This is when a person is influenced by this very subtle, pervasive, and powerful energy. They become lethargic, they become lazy, they are drawn to intoxication, getting loaded with alcohol or drugs, you know, not being motivated to work or to be responsible, cycling down, just like you see with addiction. You know, that's the epitome of this energy, the mode of ignorance, tamaguna. Rajaguna is the mode of passion, and it is this energy, when people become inspired by it, that they seek to excel. They become top athletes, they become great creators of art or the engineering. They build all these cities that are all built on that particular energy. And then there is a third type of energy. It is called sattva guna, where it is called the mode of goodness, where people are more drawn to get away from the noise and everything. They're drawn to nature, to more beautiful sounds, to being good, to being kind, you know, all this kind of stuff. But beyond it, this is still categorized as a material condition, but it's a good platform to begin a spiritual journey. It encourages people that way. But there is a condition that is called Shuddha Sattva. It is transcendental goodness. So we seek not simply to become good, but to become spiritually directed, I'll use that term, and live a thoroughly spiritual life. One of the challenges is in the ancient Vedic and yogic texts, there are going to be many concepts there and things that people in the West have never heard of, and you know, or it's presented in some weird way by some would-be yogi or whatever, and so there's a lot of kind of confusion. But the goal is to reconnect with our true and eternal spiritual identity and nature, to experience that and to be living and true to that, and to reconnect with the Supreme Soul in the most extraordinary and wonderful way. And in that journey, as one attains those things which are considered spiritual gifts, it's not because we become great that we deserve them, but that we become very humble and very submissive to a higher spiritual truth, to God, to, we can use different words. And because of that submissiveness of heart and surrender, one becomes graced with revelation, with spiritual vision and understanding and experience, which is the far out part. They experience that reality. Good enough for now? It's a start. There's more, I promise you, heaps more, but if we stray too far, it'll just create so many more questions than can be answered. I promise I want nothing from you other than you sincerely consider to cultivate a personal practice to take this journey. It's not about teams, it's not about joining anything, it's personal and it's individual. But to seek the association of others who are like-minded souls on the same journey is good. It gives us encouragement, and we see in the transformation of others, we see, wow, this is real. It's not just that I'm feeling good about it. I can see the change that it's having in others' lives, that it's encouraging.
First of all, thank you for all your wisdom you're sharing with us. I was just wondering if we are these eternal spiritual beings, and if I see myself as the soul that goes over into different forms, I'm wondering if that soul always stays as one, or is it possible?
Always.
Like, can it split?
No.
Is it possible, or is
No.
that? All right.
It is immutable. It doesn't transform, cannot be cut into pieces, cannot be dissolved. It is eternally the same.
All right, thank you.
Did you have something else in mind that was behind that question? You may be thinking about some situation or something.
Yes, I am actually, but without going into detail, I wonder this feeling of some part is missing. Some part is missing in that whole. I wonder if that part can be somewhere else or in someone else, or if it is really the reconnection to the source.
The missing is not that something has become divided and the piece is gone. It's just I've become blind to it. I'm not cognizant, I'm not aware, I'm not connected or feeling connected to that. Just like the average person is often so absorbed in the body, seeing it as the self, that there's zero awareness that this body is not me. I mean, we become utterly convinced that the body is me. And that is a tragedy. And this is one of the things, I'm so upset at the word selfie. Number one, you've got to be psychotic to take so many pictures of your body I mean, 10 years ago, if you did that, people would look at you like you were weird, you know? Or as 15 years ago, before they had smartphones, people just had cameras. Imagine if I see someone here and I ask him, could you take a picture of me, please? And then he takes a picture, you know, and then I get, oh, one more. Can you, one more? You know, and then he gives the camera back to me, starting to feel uncomfortable. Then I go, oh, could you take a picture of me, please? And then someone else, can you take me? Sometimes people take like 30, 40 pictures before they decide which one they want to post, only because they want to give a false image that this is me and I'm beautiful and perfect. And aren't you just jealous? And don't you want to love me also? They say, what the hell is going on there? And the biggest, most stupid thing is that body is not you. It's just bones and flesh and blood. You know, as soon as a person leaves their body, okay, little diversion. I recommend that you should try and be present as many births and as many deaths as you can. It will enrich your life to see, you know, a new body coming into the world, and to be with someone and to assist them in the time when that they are going to leave that body. And when you witness somebody leaving their body, instantly there is this massive transformation. You could feel attraction to that body and want to embrace it and hold it. As soon as the person leaves, it becomes like contaminated. You don't really want to hang out with it. You don't want to put it in bed and sleep with it. Even if it was your husband or wife or your mother or father, you know, that would be creepy and weird. And everybody feels it. And the reason you feel it is because that is an empty shell. The actual nature of the body is now manifest to you. And the person has gone. They've left. When the person resides within the body seems to manifest personality and, you know, is attractive and all of these things. But that's just on loan. And everybody is just have become so materialistic. The foundation of materialism is the idea that I am material, meaning this body is me. I am male, I am female, I am old, I am young, I am attractive, I'm very plain or ugly, I am crippled, I am healthy. All of these things, that's not you. None of those things are you. That's the body. So, you know, this illusion that everybody is caught in is the foundation for not some or most, all unhappiness, all pain, and all suffering directly arises from this massive illusion and ignorance that the body is the self. We don't ever hate on for the body. The body is an amazing thing. It should be treated almost like a temple, something sacred. It's really important. Okay.
May I ask 2 questions?
I don't know. We'll find out.
Okay.
You can try.
Okay, the first question, I'll start with a lighter one. I have been going really deep in trying to
See,
understand.
deeper and light, they are.
Okay.
No, I'm sorry. In Sanskrit, deepa is the little lamp with the light, so she's going deeper. So, sorry.
I have been trying to illuminate
Yeah.
myself with trying to understand the Bhagavad Gita and Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. But I think going to the source, I read the same sentence over and over, it just goes over my head. And I've read it so many times I don't understand it. So I've tried to find like easier versions of it. But if I'm really honest with you, I found some of the reels to be very informative in the way that they explain certain verses of the Bhagavad Gita, because like coming from a Hindu background, my parents were very religious, and they were never able to, well, they answered some questions, but most of the questions they could not answer about why we do it.
It is good enough for my father, it's good enough for you. Bas.
And that's why I never did it. But as I'm deepening my yoga practice,
Yeah.
I'm actually finding myself going back to the religious practices
Yeah.
because I understand it. So obviously tonight was like, I really, really enjoyed the wisdom that you've shared, and it's really made me look at my own perspective of things. But how can I continue this journey? Because on social media, you have to scroll through a lot of crap to actually find something that's useful. Is there any recommendations that you would make on how I can go deeper and understand or connect with the spirituality deeper?
These guys can share some resources on the internet that might be helpful. I also have a website with maybe there's about 400 videos there. One of the series I did, I call it the Bhagavad Gita Chalisa. We've taken 40 verses from the Bhagavad Gita to try and explain what are the principal and most important messages which are often lost or overlooked or misunderstood. I worked for a while on a translation of Patanjali's Yoga Sutra. See, the problem is the form of writing known as sutra is not understandable by not just common people, by most people, because it's not written like a sentence, and it's not a manual, a how-to. What they are is very brief and pithy, you know, super concise statements. And I mean, in Sanskrit, the way some of the pundits used to speak about sutra writing, you know, and how much they would be prepared to sacrifice if they could just cut one more word out of the. But the problem is it makes it incomprehensible to most people. But you are meant to learn it, and under the guidance of Guru, where you are developing a practice, and then the recitation of sutra would remind you of the deeper teaching. So you can take one word that's filled with deeper meaning, and you will find that the majority of people that have attempted to translate Patanjali's work, they are all practically from the school of Adi Shankara, who only presents one perspective of what is the full Vedic truth. For instance, he says ultimately everything is Brahman. That's all there is. Nothing else is real. But in the Bhagavad Purana, it describes that supreme substance is manifest as Brahman, Paramatma, and Bhagavan. And it is a much more comprehensive appreciation of ultimate truth and reality. So when you read the Yoga Sutra from the perspective of Shankaracharya and his followers, they cannot explain or they will misinterpret. I mean, there is one shloka, the 24th shloka on the first pada. Ishvara pranidhana vat. He has just finished speaking about the highest experience of samadhi, asampragyata samadhi. And when you hear about it and how almost impossible it is to attain, he then makes this verse, which means by complete submission to Ishvara. When they use va there, it normally means, in most usage, it means also. But in other Sanskrit uses, it can be emphatic, meaning like only, although usually they use, other terms for that. But so he's fundamentally saying that the highest spiritual attainment is possible by complete submission, complete surrender to Ishvara. And then he goes on to describe who is Ishvara. He describes characteristics. But if you see the interpretations of followers in the lineage of Shankaracharya, that's highly problematic. And so they have to lend all kinds of interpretation to it. So the issue is to find someone that is genuinely an authority and to learn. Just by reading a book, it doesn't bless you with the capacity to understand and more to realize what is there. Why? Because we have all these filters, all this contamination of consciousness. And so every time we read and look at things, even if it is the most pure transcendental truth, it will be all filtered through our consciousness. But when one finds a true transcendentalist, they can reveal what is the actual meaning. And that revelation is not intellectual. It also requires that a person be undertaking a process of purification and surrender so that they can be gifted with true understanding and realization. There are only two paths, broadly speaking. One is called the Aroha Pantha, the ascending path. It is like one who is trying to climb Mount Everest. And I have to be expert. I have to have all training and high altitude training and learn how to use crampons and work, snow and ice. And it's just like a huge feat, and you have to be heroic. Not like today with what they're doing with all the tourism there. It's, for people that actually do it without the Sherpas doing everything for them. They can't do it, right? It's ridiculous. But that's okay if the mountain is not sentient. What if I went to a base camp set up with the idea that tomorrow we're going to start moving towards Camp 1? And then when I unzip my tent and look out in the morning, it's moved 40 kilometers away. And so then I get all my stuff and I spend the whole day going that 40 kilometers, and now I'm there again. And I zip up my tent and go to sleep, and I open. And in the morning I look and it's moved somewhere else. This is a little bit of a silly example, but the point I'm making, it's not just by your strength that you can climb something that is unconscious and not sentient and impersonal. We're dealing with the highest transcendent reality. And so apart from this path, which is almost never successful, and if it is, it is still only by the grace of God that they can attain some realization, not because of their effort alone. The other path is known as the Avaroha Panta, and it is the descending process where one becomes so humble of heart and becomes so surrendered that we can say God approaches them rather than them trying to reach him. And who can stop that? No one. Right? And that's the meaning of that line of Patanjali, Ishwara Pranidhana Bhat, that by complete surrender to Ishwara, one can attain, be gifted with the highest spiritual realization and experience. How about that? Something a bit different.
Lots to think about, but that's actually led me to my next question.
Okay. Oh, we got another question.
So because I'm on this deep journey,
Yeah.
and so I've had
Fortunately, the flame hasn't gone out. The
no,
deeper is still
the
going.
flame's burning very, very
Okay.
bright at the moment. So in my previous career, like what I started off as a dentist and then like managing multiple like business
Kriya or
development.
Kriya? Career.
Korea? Did I say it right?
Okay.
Korea?
No, I'm again making a joke.
Korea.
Kriya. Okay. Sorry. You'll get used to me after a while. Kriya in Sanskrit means like spiritual action. So I'm making a joke when she says Kriya. Yeah. Anyway.
I would actually like to go full time into Korea. So
Yeah.
I've left all my other careers that felt purposeless. I just literally decided one day enough is enough. I still haven't told my dad that I've now gone completely into the yoga path
Yeah.
because I don't want to risk him getting a heart attack. But I found that I'm just want to go deeper and deeper into this, and now I'm teaching other people, and that's helping me pay my bills. But I'm trying to understand what purpose is, because right now my heart is so
Yeah.
full, and like I'm single, and I feel so whole. I've never felt this whole ever before. And I had to go down to the lowest point in my life to find this and climb myself
Hole
out.
as in like a hole?
Yes, that hole.
Okay. Joking.
But now I'm the other hole.
Yeah, yeah.
So is this what purpose is, or does it mean that...
This is purpose, but again, we should not misunderstand. In Bhagavad Gita, how does Bhagavad Gita begin? What is Arjuna's situation?
in the war?
He is looking at his family members, and suddenly he is overwhelmed with the thought that, like his grandfather, right, Bhishma, Deva, he was going to have to fight him in battle, and he felt him to be worshipable. And the idea of how could we do this, and how can we kill our kinsmen, and there were millions of people that were going to die in this battle, and what was it for? And he suggested that he should abandon everything and basically become a sannyasi and go to the mountains. And Krishna laughed at him, but took pity upon him and said that is a materialistic perspective. It's a little bit more deeper than that. And he taught him how he could attain the highest perfection by actually acting as a warrior on that battlefield. And the distinction was, now it wasn't about me. I'm not doing this for me. It's got nothing to do with me. I'm doing it because it is my duty, and because I am being asked to do this by Krishna. And so, the problem is not the work. The problem is why we are doing the work. running away from the world can help to some degree, to a limited degree, but then can also end up causing more problem. We need to, the first mantra of the Isha Upanishad, Ishivasham idam sarvam, it goes, that everything animate and inanimate that is within the material creation is the property of the Supreme. That one should not lay claim to anything, knowing well to whom it belongs. One is entitled to accept what is allocated for in your life and on your journey, but one should not be the proprietor or owner of that. And one should utilize all the material energy in the service of God and God's children. So it's not, the problem is not the world, the problem is how we are seeing the world. So the word is yuktya, vairagya. Vairagya, when people think it means to give something up, but how can you give it up if you don't own it? You don't even own your body. That's not your property. You will be forced to leave it. You can't bring it with you. It has been temporarily assigned to you, but it is not yours. But we, in our corruption, we claim the body as our own, as who we are. And we seek to enjoy with it and to exploit others and to exploit resources, to try and use it as the center of fulfillment and satisfaction and happiness and pleasure. That is a corruption. If I see everything as God's property and I am a caretaker, then I become very gentle in my dealing with everything and everyone. I see everything differently. So Arjuna's problem was not what he thought. It was not to try to renounce something that you can't renounce. You're not the owner of it. You are not the owner of it. So this yukta vairagya means to utilize everything in the service of God and not to lay claim to any of it. That is the actual principle. Big subject, but a little idea. Yeah. What does?
Social mean.
What's the real meaning of social? Being
Social? Social, you know the word society? Okay, the word society, it means, you know, people that live together. You know Sangha? We're stuck. Yeah? Maybe my pronunciation is pretty lousy. It means like that, like association. Like a family is like a small society. And then with all the other relatives, that becomes a bigger society. Then if that takes up all the other people in the village, that's another bigger society. Then the village is part of a state, and all the people in there are part of a bigger society. You get the idea? Yeah. Okay, we're done.
Thank you very much, Acharyadas. Acharyadas is, you know, he's always traveling. Don't be offended, he's not a young man, and he does a lot of travel. a lot of travel.
My time is very limited.
A lot of traveling and a lot of speaking, and we're very, very grateful for you to come to Brisbane, Acharyadas. So thank you very much.
I have the extraordinary fortune of having in my life two great transcendental personalities who have taught and guided me. And I have a great responsibility to repay my debt to them. And I repay that debt by trying to share the gifts that they have given me. And so you actually provide me a great service that I'm indebted for by making it so I can speak and try to share some of these things. So I am very indebted to all of you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Acharya.
Event tomorrow morning, so, and I'm staying on the Gold Coast, so I got a journey. Excuse me. Thank you very much, everyone.